So, hello again to those of us who are joining us live where we put our streams out on radio days between Christmas and New Year. As I've just explained in the other stream, that we are now joining Harry. Harry, every week, every Sunday, produces a programme here at Autistic Radio based on a Facebook page that he curates, and I find it's the only way I want to look at Facebook. Hi Harry, are you there ready for us?
Yeah, good evening, Jules. I'm just checking my sound.
You're sounding perfect.
Oh,
Do you want? How's your Christmas? How's your Christmas been? Have you had some good stuff and some bad stuff?
yeah, it was all good. Yeah, Christmas was great. Um, I'm glad to say it's a nice time to spend time with my family, and I
Yeah.
enjoyed it very much.
Well, it hasn't all been lovely for me, and I'll go into that as we go forward. Um, it's well, what do I want to say? I have had a lovely Christmas in parts. I've also had some really difficult emotional times, and I think other people will have had that too. Um, it's never always smooth for me, and I think I share that amongst some of the autistic community out there listening today.
Well, I found that a wee prompt, although it's not. I've had moments where I've not felt great. But I'd like to say in the main, when I've been in company, it's been great. Sharing times with, as I do every year, go to mum and dad's house, which is only 5 minutes uh, from my own house. Christmas tree and everything all up. My dad's not so much of a big, a Christmas kind of laddie that stuff, but my mum is, and Christmas songs was on. My sister, my niece, and my brother-in-law were there too, as well as my brother. So it was all nice, and it was one of the nicest Christmas actually I've ever had. But then, and I was there that long. I went down about maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was there till midnight. But then it was time to go home, and even though I did need a bit of respite from being in other people's company, because there's always many autistic people feel they do need that. The next day or so was just like a bit somber, and maybe partly a bit lonely because I live on my own. But and because I'm not used to being busy, it's like I'm kind of forced myself not to be busy. I'm forced myself to relax. So when I stop, that's when I kind of feel the kind of lingering sort of emotions a little bit. But I'd like to say it's not been too bad this year, but it still remains.
Yeah, I had an absolute, I had an absolute brilliant Christmas, except for the day of horrible communication, blazing rows, and entire distress that happened between myself and my wife. And neither of us were managing to support each other. And we are a kind of functional team that supports each other in our autism. But when that breaks down, it breaks down so catastrophically that it's it goes from us being lovely in our lives to in the worst place. And I'm only able to really talk about it because it's past. But I'm damn sure that so many people out there are going to have found Christmas in the difficulty that I found myself in for 24 hours.
I suppose the bad times are there to help you enjoy the good times.
Yeah, one of the things I found this year, because I didn't have like the right feelings for Christmas. And one of the things that I've been working on has been trying to deal more healthily with my emotions. And I did find that when I gave myself a little bit of time just to feel exactly how I felt and not be not let myself be tyrannized by like this, I don't know, internalized Christmas critic, um, that yeah can get really loud. I feel like there can be so much pressure to have like the best Christmas, and it really, I feel like it really kind of it brings up so many other things like a bit of a cascade. But I found that if I actually just detach from that and going, how am I actually feeling today? And I'm like, oh, okay, like kind of grounding into the present a little bit helped.
Did you say grounding into the present? Yeah, um, it's, it's a bit of a lost start, that, you know.
Yeah, I did. Grounding's been, yeah, grounding is something I need to do a lot, so that I'm not kind of emotional, like having emotional flashbacks to stuff that's not actually like happening anymore. And I find it gets me out of those kind of old loops and into the present where I'm like, oh, this is quite nice. I like my little home. I like it's peaceful and I like that there's predictability and stuff. Um, and grounding in the present, I would say I do that quite manually by like looking around at what's around me, listening to what's happening around me, feeling like maybe my feet on the ground, and just trying to bring my awareness more to like my senses in a good way. Um, and one of the things that's really challenging about it is that if if it's not anxiety and things aren't very good and you ground into the present, it gets very clear very fast that you're not in a very good situation. So yeah.
But there's like options there, isn't there? There's avoid it, do something about it, sedate it, get distracted. There's loads of choices. But there's also that choice that is very, very difficult, which is to just stay with it. And I've been doing a wee bit of this recently, unavoidably almost. It's not something I was intending to do, but like when I wash the dishes and stuff like that, I kind of trance out into a thought. I'm like I'm reenacting something. Um, Maybe I'm doing a question and answer, maybe I'm just reliving it, but it's like I'm there. And then I snap back and go, okay, I'm here washing the dishes. And what I've gleaned from that, I think, is that that's my body talking. It's making me think. It's not like I'm intentionally thinking these things, although maybe it's a mystery. But I really do think it's the body. There's a discomfort or a unease in the body, and it makes you come up with a thought that is like the feeling. And then you're off into a memory, and then you're reliving an experience almost. So I don't know if that helps at all, but that's just a wee reflection on what you were just saying.
Yeah, I think it's almost like that. I'm imagining that when there's that discomfort, instead of being with it, that it's almost like dissociation in order to kind of numb it. Is that what you mean?
Well, that's an option. I think I'm no expert. And that might be essential in certain moments when you're feeling pain. So it might be worth doing something like, I wouldn't recommend dissociating, but doing something to reduce the anxiety and feelings.
Yeah, so as I understand it, like as I feel like what we were both saying is that there's choice when you're in the actual present. You've got agency in the present in a way that we don't have over the past that we can't change.
I'd like to hope so, but sometimes you're just tired, you're weak, and you just don't have the strength, and things can overtake you a bit. So you just have to, again, another thing about grounding is to maybe prepare yourself for that, and not expect too much.
But generally, I'm just really glad Christmas is over.
Yeah, the big hype, which lasts more than 2 months, if not longer now, is now over. And now this is like the in-betweeny week. And I'm actually kind of lost the days. I didn't realise tomorrow was actually Saturday. That just shows you. And it's like, it's that kind of slow we get into the New Year celebration, which not everyone celebrates. And then we're into the New Year. It's a strange one. But I quite like this time. Maybe because I've got this now. But I quite like this time because it kind of, for me, it's a settle down time before the next year starts again.
Welcome to the Twilight Zone.
Absolutely, it is the Twilight Zone. I've always loved this bit between the things you're supposed to do at Christmas, the things you're supposed to do in New Year, and this not at work, not in business, not doing DIY. This is the real holiday at the time of year because nothing's imposing on you. And this is my absolute best time over the Christmas period. 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th. And I've given it also, part of it, to Radio Days. And, this is my bit. This is what I want during the year. The Christmas, not so great. The New Year, sometimes it can be great. But this bit is the bit I want.
So apart from Christmas and all that, what else are people been up to? Or what would you like to be up to?
Well, what I've done actually is for the first time, I've been meaning to do this for a long time. A lot of it's due to finances as well. I finally bought myself a season ticket, well, half a season ticket, in football, for the Bar Football Club. And what prompted me to actually do it is because Dumbarton on kind of financial difficulties now need the money. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to actually get a season ticket and then actually go on a regular basis to the football on a Saturday. Like a new sort of routine, because what I used to do is just go every now and again because I felt it was just a big commitment, and in my head it just seemed like a stressful thing to do. But I've convinced myself to give it a go, get down there, because most times I get down, I enjoy being there. Get into the stadium, doing that routine thing. It's not too big a stadium, it's not too big a crowd, it's easy enough to get to, and it's something that I'm looking forward to doing. But unfortunately, it's actually it's collided with the radio days, because I forgot about the in-betweeny bit actually hit the weekend, so I won't be on tomorrow, unfortunately. Although there'll be plenty of stuff for the Facebook. I just thought something announce. I mean, it sounds like a big announcement for nothing, but it's actually a big deal for me because it's something I've always wanted to do, and I'm finally getting around to doing it.
I think that's a very useful thing, Harry. That's like using the using capitalism for a good purpose. You know, if we're going to deal with money and currency and value, you might as well contribute to something whilst you're spending, you know, the betterment of others. And it sounds really a good wee scene to be in there because, as you say, it's a small stadium, smallish crowds, a place where you could just mingle comfortably in a kind of semi-social event.
My son's favourite thing in the world is football, and I don't have a part of my brain that can process football at all. But getting to kind of be around that world, it's so rich. There's actually so much on offer to the community at a football club. I've been really quite impressed, and he's had such amazing support. Too. So he plays for like a mainstream team and gets some support from the club in order to do so. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, I think they're great community spaces actually.
Are you all right with the community spaces? Because earlier on in some of our conversations, we're talking about difficulties we sometimes have with social events, you know. Um, but community is quite important, you know. I always think when I'm doing things or creating things, um, I sometimes wonder, is it just for me or is there a way I can share it somehow? Not like, you know, gallery showings or anything like that, but, you know, make it work for somebody maybe outside my door.
Oh, I actually personally find the community space really difficult, but that's what I've found with the club and the team. There's been that I've found support there so that my son's able to participate at times when I've not been able to. Our support for me if I'm struggling to participate, and just even that allowance from people that, you know, if I'm going to have to go to somewhere that's busy, I'm probably going to have to sit on my own with my headphones on in pain. And people are sort of starting to understand that that's not me being like hostile. There's been challenges because of people not understanding that, but I've got quite a thick skin.
Because that's what I resist a wee bit when I've been exploring my communities over the years. Um, they're great, they're quite accepting, but they're organised in such a way that it makes it quite difficult for myself and some others. Um, so it's like being there and being comfortable. Very often it's just not being there is the choice that I used to make. Uh, but it's also the organisation kind of means they're not really going to be doing things I would, in a sense, enjoy doing. But in your case, being a mother and looking after your child and supporting them in their needs, um, you can't really walk away sometimes, eh? So, yeah.
I think that parent thing, if I hadn't been a parent of well, of any child, if I hadn't been a parent, full stop, I wouldn't have been forced to go outside my comfort zone in the way that I have been. Everything to do with going to parents' meetings or school plays or, well, in my case, hockey matches rather than football matches. It's very life expanding being a parent, and I know that a lot of autistic people express how difficult that is, because it does require an awful lot of masking. I kind of also put forward how stretching and fulfilling that part of it can be. It stopped me being a total recluse, I reckon.
Yes, I really resonate with that, Jules. There are rewards, and I do like I feel like I live in a degree of constant burnout that I have to make sure it doesn't get too bad. And I have a lot of like self-care measures in place, like crazy early bedtimes and doing lots of things that just actually don't suit my, my spirit, but that maintain me in a way that helps me to cope with that discomfort. And yeah, there's definitely rewards there, and it's uh, understandings that I think I've got to, because I have to go to places that I'm on my edge.
What I like about this time of the year as well is it's a time for, well, for me, is a bit of reflection on the year gone past and the year ahead. Not too much thought as such, but just reflection, because the way that my life's been and a lot of people's lives are is like things are constantly on the go. And then it's this period that for some people you actually stop and take stock. Sometimes that's not always beneficial for people, but it is for me. And it makes me, it kind of makes me a little bit bored as well and relaxed and ready to take on the new year when things start to back again. Because even when the new year does come around, it's like another week after that until my commitments that I'm involved in, well, most of them, begin to be full flow. Although I was invited to a meeting on the 3rd of January, but I politely declined because I feel I need that period to reflect and rest a little bit. I mean, I don't know about others on here, but I seem to thrive on caffeine. And it's certainly not good for you, but it certainly keeps me going in many ways in terms of activity, in terms of just keeping the spirit up and keep going. Sometimes it even feels like caffeine's a good antidepressant, although it probably isn't.
We're in the world of self-medicating here, even if we're talking about caffeine. There's a reason that caffeine is added to various medications, and that's because caffeine is a drug. We don't think of it like one. We're starting to remember that nicotine is a drug and alcohol are drugs, but caffeine, you put it with a painkiller and it increases the value or the effect, the analgesic effect of a painkiller. You put it with codeine, you put it with paracetamol. And yeah, I reckon caffeine is an upper. And there were definitely periods of my life when I was drinking so much instant coffee that I look at it now and I think, yeah, that guy was self-medicating. That guy was using that to deal with something inside his head, whether it be feeling rough, maybe depression, or feeling down, or just trying desperately to keep perking myself up. I don't think overall, in the end, for me, it was beneficial. I think I ended up a bit strung out, and I needed drugs to actually probably push me in the opposite direction. And yeah, I think youthful 20s, that caffeine buzz ended up being a bit too much for me now, and I've really cut it down to a couple of cups of coffee a day. Quite strong ones, though.
Wow, is that cutting down a couple of strong ones a day?
Yeah, exactly. I think if I actually measured the amount of caffeine in these 2 cups of coffee that I make from ground beans and filter out, it's probably the value of about 4 or 5 instant cups anyway. No, what I was drinking a cup of coffee every when I was building up a business and I was on a reception. I did every job in the business. I used to work on reception, and I used to drink coffee constantly through the day as I was inviting people in and out. And it was because I was doing all that social interaction that I now know I'm totally ill-equipped for. I can do it for short periods like here on the radio or in real life, but I really shouldn't have been doing what I was doing to myself.
I did see a video once on YouTube about a guy, a businessman, a young businessman who drank tons and tons of coffee, and it was ADHD, undiagnosed ADHD, he said was at root. So he had to give it up for various reasons, and discovered that what he was trying to do with the self-medication, he then began to do with some kind of physical discipline, which was, that kind of cold water ice therapy business. So at that point I kind of switched off. But I can see where these things go. And coffee is one of the traditional routes and one of the most available routes for people to do things like that. But there is an experience that metabolism can be quite different too, and on different occasions these things don't do what they're expected to do.
It's just weird, talking about caffeine and talking about coffee while I'm sitting drinking it on here. What I tend to do traditionally is, on the Sundays, is we drew the drop in. Or if we'd done a podcast like in the past, the kind of 4:45 to 4:46 sort of thing, is drink coffee or a can of Coke or whatever. And then when it came to me doing speaking, I would relax myself and have a beer. And it's just like, it's that kind of tradition. Probably doesn't sound healthy, but it doesn't do any harm as such, I don't think. Although I'm not talking about like what does any harm or not, it's just more of the sort of kind of routine that I've kind of put myself in. It doesn't always work out that way. I don't always have a beer. I don't always have coffee, but in the main, I generally do. It's just a weird thing thinking about, talking out loud about.
I just want to include Justin in the 444 today. He's over in a different system. And he is straight on to the idea of caffeine and painkillers going on today with thumbs up and smiley faces. But the next image is of a cup of drink, and he says, "No caffeine for me." Downturned face, thumbs down, ban it, and then he follows it with his drug of choice is mug of foaming beer. Actually, no, make that 2 mugs of foaming beer. Big thumbs up, big smiley face, and then a kind of slightly drunk, confused face afterwards. So I think what we get in here is leave the caffeine for Justin, but he'll have a beer or 2.
I like my own beer, I've got to say. Although it's not beer, it's lager I drink. I get pulled up when I say I drink beer. I don't drink beer, I drink lager, a Tennent's lager. And they say that it's definitely not a beer. And I have found out that that's the case, because someone did give me a beer once, and it was nice, but you couldn't drink as many of them as I could drink lager. Going off point. But what I like about this sort of discussion is the sort of things that, being autistic, there's a lot of things I don't like. Like I don't, in terms of drink or foods, which has been discussed in many ways. So I just think it's very comforting that there's actually things that it's comfortable to use, like drinking coffee or whatever, or drinking beer and enjoying them. That's the thing I've got to state as well. Even though I drink coffee and it has a certain level of the caffeine kind of boost thing, is that I drink it because I enjoy it. I don't drink it because I feel that I need it. Although that does sometimes come into play at times. But if I didn't want to, if I wasn't going to enjoy the coffee, I certainly wouldn't try and have one.
I think it was the film director David Lynch who often said that you'd start the day with a really good, strong coffee and a nice sugary cake. Yeah, what was it? Cherry pie, something like that. Anyway, very traditional. And then he obviously did a bit of meditation as well, so he was kind of tuned in to his space. But the coffee and the sugar would then kickstart ideas because he was a mentally orientated person. He was into creativity, so he was always fishing for ideas. And you know what it's like sometimes when you have coffee, you can't stop yourself thinking sometimes. You just go off on these tangents or rabbit holes. I'm just very curious about getting there without that. I believe it, well, I know it is possible, but it's so much nicer sometimes to go through a ritual and making a coffee with the beans, grinding your own beans and stuff, the odours, the smells. It's a nice ritual, as are a lot of practices associated with consuming mind-altering substances.
I studied herbal medicine for a wee while a few years ago, and it was really fun learning about how the plants can just, we've got these neuroreceptors, and they can just plug right into them. So it's like they're almost like analogs for our own hormones as well. So it's like we've just evolved like alongside plants so much that they can speak to us on such a deep level, so that you can they could alter your whole mind chemistry just through plugging into your existing system. I just think it's so cool. and at about 5 feet, around about 5 feet, the trees, like the terpenes that they release, just trees just in general are at their most concentrated, and so the terpenes that the trees are emitting are able to kind of affect us as well. And I think that's why we get that calming effect when we're in the forest. It's like the trees just kind of are meant to be able to just mellow you out a little bit.
I just bring in what Justin's saying on Podbean. He said that he received 3 beers as Christmas gifts from people and lots of celebratory emojis, plus a brand new drinking glass to use, and he's already consumed one of them. The thing I find funny about Justin is that he uses the word consumed for drinking beer, which is so formal and so autistic, isn't it?
I'm also a fan of imbibed.
It is a consumer culture, after all.
For regular listeners, Raymond is both the Zen guru and also our undercover political agitator, anti-capitalist movement.
No, I'm an anarchist.
Wow, I thought I was pushing it with anti-capitalist, and now you're saying you're anarchist total. A nihilist end, or is there a utopian vision somewhere?
The continuously creative moment of now anarchism. It's not a system. It's not a belief.
Totally with you on that. That's a really lovely thing to say, and it's, if you can manage to be in that zone, I think you've cracked it. It's almost the gentle art of not giving a fuck.
The pressure's constantly on to not be in that moment. So being in that moment's always there. It's just accessing it. He says, having almost burnt his tea.
Do you like to cook your tea with the tea leaves in or the tea bags in? I had an aunt who used to cook, like put it on the stove and heat it up a little bit so it'd be really tarry. And my parents would always behind her back complain about the stewed tea. And so I just said to her, could I have my tea not stewed? And I couldn't understand why my parents were upset with me over that.
Stewed tea, burnt toast, burst sausages. Yeah, it's not tea the drink, it's my actual dinner. But I'm glad you went off on that wee tangent. It reminded me of the Bruins.
It was like what I don't know. When it was actually a family member's house that was quite a lot like the Bruins. Now you mention it.
But yeah, I had a couple of things on the cooker. Yeah, it's just like I'm juggling stuff here. So there's a thing I cook for myself. Always have done. I really don't trust eating out or having food brought in. I wouldn't say I was obsessed in that way, but I just don't trust it. And it's also economics as well. It's a lot cheaper to cook for yourself, but it's time consuming.
I have a sensory problem with it, whereas if I cook, all the smells make me not have any room to eat. But then if I don't cook, then I'm quite happy to eat. So I have to do a lot of food prep. And I find my pressure cooker quite good because it keeps the smells in. So that's handy.
I had this question going through my mind this week, and I thought, given the opportunity, I might ask it today. If if you were able to access unlimited money, or you know, yeah, if money was no problem, what would you spend it on? What would you want? And do you know what you want?
That's quite a question to ask a stoned man. No, I don't think
Quick
I know
answer.
what.
Sorry.
I'd give as much of it away as I could quickly. But then you said unlimited, you know?
Well, unlimited money. I'm actually afraid of that kind of concept. But if I had, well, even now, with money that I have, I'm not even spending it on what I want to spend it on, which is like house cleaning, if you know what I mean. I need some help cleaning my house.
I've got two tangents that this has put me on. One is a Lord of the Rings one, because I've been thinking a lot about Lord of the Rings and about power and about the ring and power and how it, like, power corrupts and absolute power absolute. And I feel like maybe it's the same with money. Maybe it's like you can't have it for too long. Keep sharing it. We can't. We all just maybe need to, I know, make it some sort of cooperative thing. And the other tangent was robot vacuum cleaner. That's helped me so much. I struggle a lot with housework, but I got like a really good deal on a robot vacuum cleaner, and it's quiet and it just makes me run about and pick everything up off the floor before I go to bed because it just sets to come on. And because I'm not having to hoover, I've got so many more spoons to do the kind of chores that I don't mind doing as much. So those were my tangents.
He's offered us unlimited money, and we're going for a better vacuum cleaner and giving as much away of it as quickly as possible.
The thing about money, I mean, I'm certainly not rich or anything like that, but at the moment I'm relatively comfortable. Although the way things go, it could change any time, but never mind that. I'm relatively comfortable. And even though I play the lottery because out of habit, because I don't actually, it's like a bit of money that somebody else does it for me. Like my mum's been doing it for years, so that sort of thing. Sometimes she gives me a ticket to look at, and sometimes I even forget to look at it, for days and days, and then I look at it, later on. It's not something that I'm eager to look at. The way that my life has become, I'm kind of that involved with community activism, and the way that I've seen how money's corrupting so much. Not that money corrupts, but the hoard of wealth corrupts. And I just don't feel like comfortable having a lot of money. And I have no idea what to do with it if I did have it. Of course, I've got it in my head, to give it to the right things and give it to the right. But even that's not that simple. It's actually quite a frightening thought to have to be in that position. I mean, I even go deeper than that. You go, who are really your friends? I don't think having a lot of money would actually make me any happier than that now. Not that I'm saying I'm absolutely miserable, because I'm not. I'm actually quite content mostly, but I just don't think that position would be very helpful. In fact, it might be even the reverse. I'm almost even frightened to even win money. You know, it's a strange thing. It's like, it's this sort of kind of culture. You're not supposed to be frightened of it. You're supposed to yearn for it. That's what the certain cultures meant to be about. It's about going for wealth and then for some reason holding it while others chase you and don't have it. It's a question that just goes very, very deep in me, unfortunately.
It's wealth to even just feel comfortable. I think we have to have a close look at what or I have a close look at what I think is value, and the sense of value.
I want to put what Justin's saying. When it went back to Raymond saying that if he had a few extra quid, well, no, actually, I think you said, I need to do this now. I should be spending the extra bit of money I've got on having a house cleaner. That would be the thing that would cheer me up, or something like that. And Justin says he actually has a house cleaning lady that comes in every Tuesday during the year. And that's arranged by his aunt and uncle that work with him. And I said I couldn't have a cleaner. And he said house cleaner. And I meant that however much money I had, I would not be comfortable having somebody come in my house and fucking clean it. I just couldn't do it. And in fact, I've been in the situation where we've both been out of work and we should have had house cleaners or babysitters or any of these things that you're supposed to get. And both of us, it was more important to us to not have them in the house than it was to have them, you know. And then Justin's gone back to the current conversation saying that pound signs, downward thumb, unhappy sign, ban it, money. He's generally down on the concept of money.
It's not a house cleaner I necessarily need. It's the responsibility for a property. Long term now, it's like it's in need of renovation and improvement and decoration. And even just like moving my sofa out of the living room is too much for me these days. So, and just looking at it is, you know, what's the word? It's a high pressure situation. It's intense. It requires, compartmentalization and small pieces, plans, but I've I've tried beginning it and then I get like, it's just too much even after the first two small steps.
I hope you're not mollusking up and retracting into your shell, and that as I gradually get to know you over the next few years, I'm going to see somebody disappearing inside a horny wall.
Oh, it's swallowed up by my own sofa, lost inside a maze of CDs.
Yeah, you're getting into Lynch territory there. Is that the director you want for your film?
Not really, no. No. It's just it's just dust. Dust is a terrible thing. again, it's an amusing idea. I mean, you get what you want. You know, here it is.
That's a kind of deep question as well as what do you actually want from life itself, or if there's something that you wanted, what do you really want? I mean, it's a difficult question. I mean, see, there's a lot of things that may have actually been easier to answer younger, even, because you may come out with kind of naive answers. But as time goes on, you become philosophical, and it's so deep that even things like the value of money, the value of what is a perfect ambition, aspiration, even, it all goes little down into kind of little deep thoughts that you can not get lost in, but you can actually go on a little adventure on. And all you've been doing is been asked a question, which supposedly has a simple answer.
I had a big crisis in my life in the 2010s, and I feel like since then, more and more, I've been choosing much more mindfully, and I can quite honestly say I'm doing what I want to be doing with what I have. It's that kind of fusion between that just accepting life as it is, and accepting that accepting things that I cannot change, and not escaping that into fantasy, which I was my MO beforehand. Just going to my happy little mind palace. And when I'm committed, but since I've been committed to perceiving reality, I definitely feel like I'm making choices that align more, and it's yeah, I'm doing what I want to do, and it's going okay so far.
Is the fantasy palace coming into your reality?
Yes, I think I would definitely say it's enchanted my life, and it's helped me to find the magic that I was trying to escape to look for. But it's interesting that I feel throughout the conversation of it's making me think of this, but I found meditation really, really important for me in order to kind of be able to tolerate reality and not kind of go off to the fantasy. And it took me years and years and years of effort to get to a point where I could say, yeah, the magic's coming into reality.
You had a friend at school and he formed a band and they called themselves the Practical Dreamers. And I always liked that wee title.
I've got to say that it's nice to say and nice to think that I feel quite content in my own life, because there was many years where I wanted the life, or I wasn't even sure where the life was going. It's like I just wanted it to be better. But in recent years, or maybe even longer than that, there's been an acceptance of what my life is and what my life can be. There's still options, and what my life won't be. And I'm quite content, and I'm quite happy with the existence that I have. I mean, I had many years of working class skill because I didn't have a record of employment. But then turning it around is I've certainly got many years of work. There's plenty of work that I've done. It's just not being employed. So it's that sort of kind of mindset and turning it positive. And that's how I'm kind of dealing with things now. Quite content enough. Good days and bad days, but happy within myself, mostly.
You do sound at peace with yourself, Harry. I was going to say something about meditation. It's like always something I've struggled with. Too much effort. Always thought I was doing it wrong. But recently I kind of discovered that, just being present where you are. Okay, you're always going to think, but that's just part of you being in an experience. And so the environment that you're in is the meditation, if you see what I mean. It's this just being present within it and letting it expand, to a point where thought isn't really all that necessary sometimes. If you see what I mean, that's a wee bit of a dream, but then again, thought just comes in and out. I'm okay with that, but it's being sensitive to the environment that I'm housed in, if that makes sense.
Well, that's us come to the end of this, and we're going to go straight over to the 555 live recording.